shadows of the Sunshine State, redacted is his home, lives a man named David Wright, who pens the great unknown. Diet Coke runs through his veins, a decoy wallet keeps him rich. Paranoia fuels his pen and creativity's his niche. Write, publish, repeat, it echoes through the air. A chorus for creators, a call to those who dare. With cookies as his compass and a pen that won't retreat, he journeys through the pages. Write, publish, repeat. Dave hosts a show where writers go to share their secret arts, interviewing minds alike, dissecting all their parts. Aspiring authors gather here, a place to find their feet, fueled by inspiration. Write, publish, repeat. Sometimes Sean comes on the show,
and OMG, he talks a lot.
On and on and on and on and on, he shares his every thought. But all those words he spews can on occasion hit the spot. Dude keeps the conversation lively, even when he ties it in a knot. Write, publish, repeat, it echoes through the air. A chorus for creators, a call to those who dare. With cookies as his compass and a pen that won't retreat, he journeys through the pages. Write, publish, repeat.
Hello and welcome to the second episode of Write, Publish, Repeat. And I still don't have a good intro, so we're just going to roll right into this thing. Hey, I'm Dave. This is awful. I'm David Wright, and this is Sean Platt. And he is the guest today, although he won't be here all the time. Sorry, you're going to be stuck with me.
Dude, I cannot wait to listen as a fan of the first episode without me, where you're just I actually feel, you know what it's like? It's like when you're terrified for the first time for your kid to cross the street by himself. And then you're like, what was I worried about? He just scampers across like an ambulance screams by him, but he's fine. He's got instincts. He's like an animal in motion. That's what it's like. Like as soon as you're off on your own, you're going to fly.
No, I'm going to fly right into a oncoming semi.
That is also possible.
And then like 15 more vehicles will run me over. So, yeah, the topic of this episode, which is really an extension of the last episode, is why the hell are we doing this thing? Like, why are we revisiting podcasting after we did only self-publishing podcasts and no other podcasts for the past many years?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So the reason that I left, or that we kind of just sunsetted the podcast, was because it got really top heavy in the company, and the company was starting to be less creative, and we are like a creative company. We're all storytellers. That's what we love doing. That's what we started to do. It was you and me with Yesterday's Gone, and me and Johnny with Unicorn Western, like crazy, crazy shit. And it was fun and it was motivating. And, you know, we built a big education business around it, which was not nearly as profitable as the fiction side. And it was just really resource heavy and not as much fun. And you've worked with me for 15 years now. You know how much of a driver fun is. If I'm having fun, I could just do such an insane amount of work and, you know, like juggle a lot of things and move a lot of balls forward and keep a lot of people happy and moving and kind of, you know, interlocking together. But when it becomes about not the fun, and I'm not a bottom line driven person, which is why, you know, Sterling and Stone is lucky to have an operating CEO and COO that are much more bottom line minded, because I'm much better at building the thing. And so it was really fun to build something again. You know, like the last few years has been really, really fun in transitioning to film and television. I really like that space. I've loved writing scripts. We've written a few scripts together, and you know, a couple of them are getting looked at right now, and that's very exciting. I really love that space.
They're getting looked at right now, and the script reader just found this podcast and like, oh no.
That is a danger. I knew that would be a danger getting out here again. But I really loved all of that. And then last year was very, very difficult for two reasons. The first was that, you know, we did have the writer's strike, and it really just put a sword through a lot of the work we had done a year before. And that was really hard. But even harder than that, because we didn't know that the writer's strike would be so existential and last for such a long time, but we didn't know it was coming. These things are almost on a calendar. Like the last one was 2008. This one's coming. Like we
it's time
knew,
to say fuck everybody.
yeah, there was no doubt that it was coming in 2023, but AI changed the conversation. Like it made it a very different conversation, and therefore it lengthened the strike. But also, while we were transitioning from, you know, pure publishing to being an IP incubator with a publishing arm, we needed to kind of protect our revenue. And so we made a deal with a publishing company, and it was a great deal that was a win-win for both companies until one of the companies went bankrupt. And overnight, we were almost down $800,000 in operating money that was unpaid invoices and contracted work that would not be coming. And it was very, very difficult. And so we had to kind of
I feel like we moved a lot of the business to accommodate this specific thing, and it fucked all of us hard.
Yeah. It was May 24th of last year was
a rough year.
Yeah, it was like a meteor hit. It was awful, and also just like, not to be too cliche about it, but it was the best of times. It was the worst of times. The best, it's really hard to say that, but now on the other side of it, a lot of things have happened in the last year that never would have happened otherwise. And part of just like the rebuilding the business was great, because we brought in a lot of new writers to help service some of these publishing contracts. And then all of a sudden we didn't have the contracts, but we weren't going to say bye to our writers, and we had to find new solutions, and we had to find, you know, like we really mobilized our KU, and it was cool. We put, you know, some of our best writers in the studio on this. We just mobilized, and it was really, really the energy of how all of us came together was amazing. And what we rebuilt was amazing, but it's been a hard slog to get back on top of it. And then this whole like recent time has been, you know, me building something else, because there's kind of this little bit of lag time for essentially a year. This all started in June, where we knew coming up to July was July 17th is Sterling and Stone's birthday. So we have summer camp every year, and that's when Neve officially became CEO, and we had a lot of transitions planned. And it was what would be best for the studio was publishing is going really well, but if we use publishing revenue to cover overhead, then we're not really leaping forward as much as we want to. Where if we just pour every penny we're making from publishing back into publishing, that flywheel turns like 3 or 4 times faster. So I kind of not left, that's not the right term, but I'm using more of my time to go get the ghostwriting done and move that engine, and spare time I'm building new things because that's what I'm wired to do. And so Story Merchants has been kind of a playground for me, because it's the whole idea of building little micro businesses around story and narrative. And that's what I've been doing for like really since the day we met 16 years ago. I was like, dude, let's sell books. You know,
Weed?
And so
Put the weed in the book.
So
explain to people what Story Merchants is.
Well, let me say what books were, because it was the first thing we did. Dave was a cartoonist, and I was writing a lot of like children's poetry at the time because of the preschool. So I would write a little poem, and he would write art with it, and we would sell it as a book on our sites for 99 cents. And we made like $60. Like it wasn't like a big endeavor.
That much, wow.
But yeah, like, and it was only because people like were like, oh, isn't that adorable? Like and I don't mean adorable like the art was adorable. It was like, oh, isn't that so cute that they tried? Like that's what those purchases were.
Your wife must have been so proud.
She
We
she
made
was.
$60. We can pay a day.
Yeah, and I think it probably took us maybe like, I don't know, 70 hours or something to get it. And then we split the money. It was not a great endeavor. But anyway, yeah, so Story Merchants is a lot of when I came up, the first product that Dave and I built together was called Potty Training Power. And yeah, you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
So Cindy and I had potty trained a parade of children, like 14 of them within a few year period. And so we were just on it. Like we know exactly how to do this. And so it was the first time I was learning content marketing. I was working with Dave and like, hey, you draw the images of like parents having trouble with their children. And we built this entire little micro brand, and essentially that's what Story Merchants is, except all of the little brands are related to building businesses around stories. So it's
By the way, just as a brief side tangent, it was so difficult not to lean into my dark humor and just put images of like, okay, you go in the bad boy box. That would have been lovely. Just turn it into this really dark thing.
Would you
where
like to build a micro product called the Bad Boy Box? Yeah. I bet there are a lot of parents who would buy it.
I'm having
We should try that.
flashbacks of my childhood.
So yeah, Story Merchants just became like a playground where basically like an incubator where I had all these different ideas and I was like, well, we could put it here and when it's time, we can kind of move it to the top. And that's just really fun, like not in a hurry to do anything. And the way I've been describing it to the team as we build it out and to myself and to anyone who's willing to listen to me ramble is that it's like a Marvel Cinematic Universe of content marketing. So like this is our Iron Man. This is the first show, but we're going to have other pieces of content out there that are related. And if you just want to watch Iron Man, that's totally, totally fine. If you want to see how they all fit together.
Call me when we're doing X-Men.
That's great.
I'm in on that one.
I don't know what our X-Men analog is, but I will think on that. So anyway, there are a lot of these little things, but Write, Publish, Repeat came to the top for a few reasons. First was that I'll let you, Dave, talk about like why you wanted to be a part of it, but Dave wanted to be a part of it. So that was accelerant number one. And accelerant number two was that Author Nation is happening at the time that we're recording this right now. It's November 8th. Author Nation is November 11th. So I will be there next week. And I really wanted to get this out. And it was really important to Dave that we get this out before we started that. So Write, Publish, Repeat just percolated right to the top.
I'd say a big part of it for me, well, I miss the weekly podcast. As much as I hate doing podcasts, I miss the conversation and getting, regularly, touching base with people and Sean. People and Sean. I've always been, curious how people create, how they work, and how they get more done. I am very much... as much as I've always hated the whole self-improvement thing, I probably read more self-improvement than anybody that hates it has read. And I needed to get back on track. I needed to learn how to write again because that last year pretty much broke me. And Sean was kind enough to provide ghostwriting gigs and stuff to help me out. But the joy of writing and the need to do it, I don't know, a lot of things felt hopeless, and I needed to rediscover what I did before and be able to write again and be able to write, publish, and repeat, to use the title cleverly here. I needed to get out of my own head. I needed to get away from the things that didn't work and the things that I was always my own worst enemy. And I think Sean has always been very good at optimizing every facet of everything. So doing this now felt right because I feel like a lot of people, I don't feel like, I know, because a lot of people have come up to me when we did the things we did, the events and stuff, and on the show and in email and stuff. People come up to me and said, they're not like Sean and Johnny who can write 8 billion words in a day. They're more like me, and it's a struggle, and they're they're bleeding to make it happen, and it's difficult. And I wanted to find the way to, to do it in a way that I can write more and find the time and have the ability to, create the stories I want to tell, because I'm not getting any younger. And this shit's getting harder. So.
Wait, you're not?
No, despite appearances, I'm not getting any younger. I know, it's hard to believe. And I think it's important to make use of the time that we have and create the stories we want to tell in a way that we're not holding ourselves back. And I know I'm kind of fucking all over the place on this, but it's been a struggle, and I'm really trying to, relearn.
Well, no, I like that you're taking it there, actually, Dave, because that's what. Like, let's move into that. So, we
haven't said a dumbass joke in at least a minute.
I think that's okay on occasion. Write, publish, repeat. Even this project has changed temperature quite a bit in the last. What has it been? About a month that we've been working on this.
Time has ceased to mean anything to me. I have no
idea. I want to say about a month from first, you know what, this is what we should do. And it was because Dave had made it clear that he wanted a place in the Story Merchants universe, and he wanted to do something there. He wanted to work closely together. He wanted to find his inspiration. That was what he was looking for. And I didn't know exactly where to place him. I mean, in the kindest way that I can say this is that
where do you put Wolverine?
Story Merchants has a lot of specialists. They're very, very good at this thing. I know how to scale that talent. I put it over here, and we build this thing around there. And Dave's harder. He doesn't keep a normal schedule. He's not super dependable. I've never been able to depend on 30 days in a row ever, which is our ongoing thing. It's been 16 years, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm still like, dude. So it's kind of hard. And simultaneously, I really like turning flywheels. So I was looking at what assets do we have? What could we leverage? Is there any kind of a head start that I could give to Dave? Because anytime you're building something, going from 0 to 1 is the hardest. Going from 1 to 5 is a lot easier. So what could I find that already is at 1, and then we could grow it from there, or 2 or 3 or whatever. And Write, Publish, Repeat seemed like, what, that's a good idea. That was a powerful piece of content in its day. We could modernize it. We could put it online for free. We could build a podcast around it. Dave could just lean right into this. He's a journalist. He's curious.
I finally got around to reading it.
He finally got around to reading it. And it took me a couple of weeks to realize that there was some fear around it, and there was some anxiety around it, and that a lot of the things that, I think what it amounted to is Dave never wants to feel like a poser. And he's like, yeah, but I'm not super great at these things still. I don't write, publish, repeat. And I said,
I'm not a good host for a podcast.
And I'm like, but Dave, that's actually great that you don't write, publish, repeat, because that's what we have to teach. And I agree with everything that Dave just said. I am not relatable to the average listener of this show in the same way that you are, because I'm an anomaly in that way. I do write fast, and so I write fast, and I write usually without fear, and you write
and surprisingly well for somebody that writes so fast. My view of writing fast was always if you're churning out stuff that fast, it cannot be good. And you and Johnny have both proven otherwise time and time again.
I really try to just get into my flow. And I'm actually not even trying to set that up, but it is kind of perfect. But I always try to have my flow very accessible. And I think that the more that I'm a fast communicator, which can be annoying because I'm really just chatty and can go on and on and on, but I can get that on that same energy on the page and then just edit it so it's very clean and it goes. And I just really like that process. So writing, I'm not as relatable in that way. You are very relatable. You have a lot of the anxieties that a lot of writers suffer from. And so seeing you get through those things is really powerful. It's a really powerful model. And I think that always worked before. And so slowly, we were reconditioning it to, this is kind of like Dave is the the joke I made in a piece of copy that actually I edited it out was, that Dave's not just, the hair club for men president, he's a member, right? And that is kind of the vibe here, is that we want to help Dave, and by helping Dave, we help everybody. And Dave will learn more about himself, I'll learn more about processes, and we'll build tools that will help a lot of writers. So the first thing that we did build, the first thing we built was just the online resource. And you guys, we did not copy and paste, write, publish, repeat onto a website. We literally rewrote every single paragraph, and then Dave built it onto like a dummy site, and then our friend Danny at AuthorStack actually put it onto a giant website where it just lives there with the podcast page on the homepage, and then a repeaters page, and that's the next thing that we'll talk about. So this is a micro business that we're building for and around Dave, and of course a business
a Dave-based business.
Yeah, Dave-based business.
That's got to be doomed to fail.
So, of course, a business's job is to make money. So we needed to figure out what the model was, and it needed to be something that Dave felt confident and comfortable about. And it also needed to be simple, because this is a micro business. Like, we're not trying to build something big here. We're trying to build something that, like, this could be Dave's thing, and it can fit into this larger network that we're building. And so, how clean can we make that funnel? And so I also love the idea of building things right in front of you, and, building things together, talking about why we built it, who it's for, how much it costs, why, and kind of putting the nuts and bolts behind our business model. And that's, in a pure self-publishing podcast, write, publish, repeat, story studio podcast model, that doesn't quite make sense. But because this is a story merchants joint, and it's all about how to make money telling stories, I actually really like how those two dovetail, where we're just going through the write, publish, repeat information, but we're also breaking it down a little bit and talking about the why. So what we did for this first iteration is we created a resource page, and there's only, I think, 4 resources on there right now, including our locally famous 40-sentence outline that we've been using for many, many years at Sterling & Stone. Bonnie and I created that, and it's just kind of a wonderful little outline that we've used I don't even know how many times.
Man, if seriously, like, that outline, that tool, if I had that, when I was 18 working in a gas station, overnight shift, I can imagine I would have written so many more books. I would have just... I've always been a pantser, and outlines were like, no, fuck that. But I kind of view outlines now as kind of like the first draft, where I'm figuring out the story as I'm doing the outline, but it's also guiding me and keeping me in place in a way that actually, as a creator, like, because I did comics and I write, and a lot of times, especially like where the humorous aspect comes in, I'm at my best dealing with limitations, like dealing with something that is in place in a way where I can figure out my place in that space. And it frees me from, like, you can do anything, so where do you even begin? And, like, yeah, so the outline is just fucking amazing. That alone is just phenomenal.
Yeah, there's an outline, and then there's an outline workbook. And I actually just sent that outline to one of my good friends who is a professional author, but nonfiction. So, like New York Times bestselling author, but in the nonfiction space, and has been dying to write fiction like the entire time I've known them. And they decided to take the leap this nano. They're going to do it. Wow. And ask for any advice. And I'm like, dude, have an outline and use this. And they shit. I mean, they shit over text, but they shit over text on this outline when I sent it to them. So, yeah, I think it's...
In a good way, you mean?
Oh, yeah. Like, oh my God.
Like, this sucks.
No, just like taking all the pain and wonder, like, because I said you just have to get through the words. Like, it's just about getting through the words. Don't think about it. Don't second guess yourself. Don't edit as you go. Write every day and clear off a chapter and a half of your outline, and you'll get there. And so the template was kind of, I think, really helpful to get your head around that. So yeah, anyway, we made a repeaters page, which has those 4 tools, but we'll be constantly adding stuff onto the tools. And of course, you do need to give us your email address to access that, because we are trying to build a list of repeaters. So there will be a lot of like really cool tools there. And right now, when you sign up, you are also signing up for an email autoresponder, which is the one that Dave and I just finished today. By the way, Dave, were you wearing that last week? Have you?
Fuck you.
So we did finish it, and it's called 10 Days to Flow. And it is all about like, I think I was trying to think what is the most helpful possible thing that we can give people as they are introduced to this world, whether they're old friends or they're brand new, just, coming up and hearing Write, Publish, Repeat for the first time. What is the thing that all of our listeners have in common? And that's they either want to develop a consistent writing habit or reinforce or improve the writing habit they already have. And after writing, I don't even know how many millions of words, 20 million words, let's guess, which probably is about right, 15 to 20. I can't do that unless I'm able to tap into flow. So it's like what Dave said earlier, well, you write well for how fast you write. And that's because I know how to trigger myself into flow. And so I try to distill that into just 10 very simple emails. And you'll see this on the 11th email if you get through the course, if you're somebody who signs up for it. The 11th email, I spoil the surprise. So this is a spoiler for you guys, that the series is really written for Dave. And then Dave comes in and takes it off. And
He did the whole damn thing to trick me into like writing more.
I absolutely did.
What
and
a bastard.
we have this really very simple funnel where there's a great free product with the autoresponder, and then we're going to launch something in January that is like a 30-day just like let's get shit done challenge. And we've been talking about that. And that was a really interesting discussion. Dave, do you want to talk about that when we talked about the product yesterday and then kind of revisiting it today?
Well, I mean, one of the things, like, I've always hated selling people shit. Like, I just want to give it all away, but at the same time, I realize, we need to make money. And we spent too much of our time and money on the old educational stuff. I feel like a lot of people have this view of like, oh my God, they made so much money from their nonfiction. In reality, I think we made way more. I know we made way more from the fiction.
Well, I'll put a finer point on that. We actually were never profitable in fiction. Fiction was, or
Fiction
nonfiction.
or nonfiction?
Nonfiction. Okay. Fiction is profitable because the overhead is so low. Nonfiction, the overhead is very high, and we were never profitable because of the overhead that we carried to have that department. It was much easier to get lean and profitable once we shuttered that. But now I want to come back. Part of it is that some of it is maturity on my side. Like, I've worked with enough people that I see that if you truly can scale impact, then like the money becomes natural. So it is, if you ask the question, how many people can I help and how can I help them, which is a slightly different question. I used to ask, I make fun of myself all the time now because I used to so like proudly wave that flag and then say, we are not a revenue driven company, but that's how companies fail. Like, you have to,
We're proudly going broke.
Yeah, it was stupid. But we had this whole conversation because you were asking about pricing. What was that conversation like? Because that's always been a thing. Like, how do you price where you can help the most people, not be exclusive, but also develop a quality product? Like, these are all questions when it comes to product and design.
Yeah, I think like initially, you have one price point, and I'm like, should we go lower? And all the experts say, no, go higher. Because if you go lower, people don't value it. And that feels like such a fucking skeezy marketing thing to say. But in reality, if you look at the things that we're doing, I feel that it was really important that we give away almost everything for free. And the best way I can... and what I said in our initial conversation was I likened it to, there's this YouTuber that I follow who does art, Rod Gun, the artist, or I know that's his, I don't know what the channel name, but anyway, I've been following him for a while. He's been doing this nonstop. Like he draws like I think every day, and for an hour or 2 hours a day, and he's giving like a master course in animation and drawing, cartooning for free every day. But then he had no pitch. He wasn't selling anything. But then recently he came out with a course, and I wonder how many people like that already get his stuff for free are gonna pony up for the course, because it's not cheap. But at the same time, I thought of my son, because I've wanted him to draw, but I don't want to push him into it. I have watched this guy's videos, and I know a lot of the stuff he's doing already, but I'm still learning, and I also enjoy watching other people's creativity sort of in real time. But I wouldn't tell my son to watch all these free videos that this guy has, as much value as they do have. I would just point them to, you want to learn the basics and you want to get this thing done, start here. Because otherwise it's like an overwhelming tidal wave of just stuff. Hey, watch this video.
No,
what order do I watch?
I love the example of your son. I think that's a great example. And for me, I am the customer. Like, that's part of the thing before, when we've done product design in the past, you're typically not the customer. And I typically am, right? So I would never design something that I wouldn't buy in some context. So let's say I'm designing something or something, and I don't have a cat, so I can't really relate to it. But
just come to me.
The client, like, they want this product, they get it. As long as I can imagine a consumer being happy with that, then it's easier to get in that space. But something with my name on it, it's very important to me that I would actually buy that. So I always tend to go for the more experiential things. So when we did The Apprentice, that was on the higher end. It was a $5,000 product. And I actually pitched it to our advisor as a $2,000 product, and a $2,000 product. And he said, you'll go broke if you do that. That's a $5,000 product. So,
as a skeptical asshole I am, my first thought, especially if I'm watching somebody try to sell me shit, wait, $5,000, that seems like gravy. You're like swimming in cash. How do you go broke for, or $2,000? How do you go broke on $2,000? How do you make sense of that?
Well, you saw firsthand. No, go ahead.
No, I mean, I don't have the experience to say, how much all this costs, but you do. Real world, how much shit costs to get done. I just show up and do the thing. You're paying the bills, and you're how much it costs. So $2,000 goes pretty fast, I'm guessing.
Oh yeah, and I'm always well. The thing is, it's different if it's like a video course, but back then, and I could see a situation where I would make a video course now about a particular topic where I wouldn't then. The only thing I did by video back then was Fiction Unboxed, which wasn't really a course, and then this Beats on Udemy thing, or Beats for Scrivener on Udemy. But and I like the idea of email courses because it's very instructional, it's easy. But I never wanted to get into the market of the $2,000 video course because I felt like it was too much for what you got. I would rather go to the next tier, which is $5,000 and high touch. I can actually talk to you and have a conversation and know what your pain points are so I can get you to the other side of them. Because if I'm having a conversation with you, then I can read between the lines. I can ask you direct questions. I can find out what your actual goals are. If you're just watching my videos, I just don't believe that you're going to get the results. So I think it's so much easier to get results at $5,000 than at $2,000, even though the $5,000 product is just not scalable in the same way. A $2,000 product is very scalable. We never built that product because that's not really the experience I wanted to create or sell. And so I always tried to be about experience because that's what I want. If I'm going to go to an event, I would rather have fewer people there. And I'm excited to go to Author Nation, absolutely, as a guest. But I much more look forward to the events that I go to a few times a year that have 100, 150 people, and they're very small. And I get more out of those. So that's what I wanted to build. I wanted to build the Smarter Artist Summit, which was smaller. So
that's why we never made money. You're offering $5,000 worth of work for $2,000. Like, you're giving way more.
Well, no, The Apprentice was $5,000. We couldn't
Okay.
launch it at $2,000. It was $5,000, and that was a good price. That was not underpriced. It wasn't overpriced. And if anything, we took a few too many clients for what we could manage. But the whole idea was, let's learn to do this and then do it again. But then we didn't really want to do it again. We were already like, the education is real. I think that was the year that we made 7 figures. But our overhead for education was 90% of the expenses, and 54% of our revenue was fiction. And it was just fiction from, at the time, me, you, and Johnny. So it was just a hard year to like realize how inefficient we were being as a company. And it started the very slow migration out of all of that we did. But now I want to come back and do it with more intelligence and more maturity. And
Yeah, how is it different this time? I mean, clearly we don't have, as many things. We're not making a zillion products. I don't know.
Yeah, it's focus. It's focus. And that's what we wanted, because we started like, what are all the things that we could offer? And that's a stupid way to offer. I mean, that's a stupid question to ask. It's like, what can we focus on? What is the one thing that we can make better month after month after month? So the first thing was just this free email course. And then the paid product is, this 30-day accelerator. I actually changed the name of it today from 30-day accelerator
of course
to, yeah. But I like this one better. What do you like better, 30-day accelerator or author velocity?
I like velocity better.
Yeah, so it's author velocity now. And I added a line to the sales page about you spying on your neighbors that I think you'll like.
Great.
and it's ready to go. But that's an interesting thing too. So we were talking about several different price points, and about maybe we started out lower, maybe we started out with what we wanted to be, whatever. And we had this whole conversation, and Dave, do you want to talk about like that conversation? Because like talking about pricing is a big thing, and I definitely have an opinion. Well, we just covered it. I'm always okay charging a little more as long as the person who is never going to buy it doesn't really care. I'm not worried about them. But anybody who is going to buy it, then I don't want anyone to feel left out. So anybody who doesn't have the means, I absolutely want to provide enough content that they can use their own hustle and acumen to get everywhere they want to go just by what we do for free. And then I want to have an offer that is for somebody with a little bit more means or a higher tolerance for risk. And I'm not talking about a lot of risk. I'm talking about like $100. But again, I'm speaking to me. And for me, I care more about my time than anything else, because more time equals more projects, equals more creativity, more collaborations, more fun, all of that, all the stuff that drives me. So I'm always going to pay for the solution that shaves time off of my learning or my results. And I really love speaking to those people. And one lesson I've absolutely learned in the last 10 years since we started the first version of the company is that the talent, like I have amazing talent in Sterling Stone. I'm very, very fortunate for the amount of talent we have over there. And then this new company has a lot of talent too. And that comes from like all the talent that I have. Most of those people came because they bought some sort of paid product and came into the sphere and were like getting to the destination. Like it was important for them to get there. And so it's like attracts. And when thinking about that, I guess this was the day before yesterday or maybe yesterday, we had settled on a $99 price point. And so you had asked something like, do you remember what you said? I don't remember exactly what you said, but it was questioning the price.
I cannot fucking remember. A day ago, you expect me to remember what I said?
Yeah, it was something of the effect of, is that too much? Is $99 too much?
Yeah.
And I said, absolutely not. We just need to make sure there's $300 worth of stuff there, is
Right.
essentially the answer.
And I think it's important for us to always over deliver, whether people are buying it or whether, they're just giving us their time. We want to give you value along with a bunch of dumb jokes. We want to give you value so you actually, I don't know. I've always hated sales, and I've always hated like the whole feeling like when you buy a course from somebody that's selling some get rich quick scheme or something, which I've never done, but I've seen how the people operate and I've watched and all that.
Have you ever wasted their bandwidth?
I wasted the fuck out of their bandwidth. And I noticed, like, watching all of this play out, they would, like, set up something, tell you how to make all this money, and it was essentially, like, a big old pyramid scheme. Then they move on to the next thing, and the people that bought the course usually were no better off, and they did not feel good about that experience. They did not feel good about the person that they bought from. And I don't want that. I don't want to, I'd rather not make money at this at all if people like have, regret in buying it or spending time with a podcast. Like, I want to be able to help people, but also help people in a way that, can help us sustain the business that we have in helping people. I mean, this isn't our only source of income. We're writing and selling movie scripts and stuff. So that is taken care of. But we don't want to, lose a whole bunch of money doing this educational thing again.
Well, yeah, I'll put a finer point on that too. It's like I'm actually taking a lot of pride in this in the last couple of weeks and seeing what this could be in teaching Dave to be a story merchant. And like make a living off of his words and off of, like his energy and his creativity. And I think part of it in the first phase too, for me with the whole $2,000 video course thing is that the way I came up as a marketing ghostwriter, I saw a lot of bad actors doing a lot of bad shit. And it just really tainted the way I felt about digital products and digital education. And in the last few years, by contrast, I've seen a lot of people doing some really amazing things in the way that they teach online. And it's reinvigorated my belief that it can be done well. And there are a lot of new tools now that allow you to create high quality product at a decreased expense. And like I love these tools that are allowing us to work with more people and more creators and get things to market faster. It's really been it's been fun. So the punchline for this story is that I had to write so yesterday we had our weekly Story Merchants meeting where one of the topics was like taking this first Write, Publish, Repeat product to the finish line because everything needs to be live and working by the time I get on a plane for Author Nation in a couple of days. And so we brainstormed what our $99 product would be. And I don't want to talk about it now because it's not quite done and I still have a few things to write and finish up. But the funny thing was, we had already decided what it was going to be, and then I added a couple things because that's what I do.
Of course.
Paid and tried to make it cooler. And then
I don't have to do more work, do I?
No, there's no more work.
Okay, that's good. Okay.
And then I put it into Claude, and Claude is great for this. So Claude, if you don't know, it's Anthropic's version of ChatGPT, but I just like talking to Claude a lot more than I like talking to ChatGPT. And Claude is very good at just giving a quick opinion. Here's how I feel about this.
There needs to be a Dave AI.
Dude, we can make one.
Here's my opinion on it.
You absolutely know we can
Everything
make this.
sucks.
So hold on. Okay, so here's what Claude said. I just gave Claude the finished copy, and I said, can you please read this and give me any critiques, opinions, or ways to improve this sales copy? And here's what Claude said. The copy is strong, clear, and compelling. The structure effectively builds value through the benefits while maintaining an authentic, confident tone. However, at $99, this feels significantly underpriced for several reasons. And then it gives me 11 reasons why it's undervalued and 9 recommendations, which I'm not going to take them on because I don't know if Frank Kern wrote these recommendations or what.
It's channeling.
And then it says the current $99 price point might actually be hurting perceived value. Many writers might think, quote, what's the catch given the depth of what's included? And I really loved that. I really love having that feedback because I do think perception is really important. And I would think that I am, again, going back to me, I am that customer. If I see a $99 product and it has all these things, I'm like, either it's not as good as it's promised or there's just something else they want to sell me. And to be clear, yeah, go ahead.
Well, it made me think of something like, as much as I hate marketing and shit, like I enjoy the psychology of it, and I like books like Predictably Irrational and stuff.
That's a great book.
Yes. And I noticed this fucking worked on me because when COVID hit, there were a few art places like that did tutorials and stuff that gave their stuff away for free to probably build goodwill, but also to give back to the community. And people were home and, hey, it's a good time to, offer something up for free. And I signed up for one of these free things. And that whole thing about perceived value, even though that shit costs a lot of money otherwise, when it was free, guess how many times I opened that site up in a year that it was free?
Yeah.
Once. And I feel like a shithead for that. Like I should have taken advantage of it. And
No,
used it.
it's so true. My history is I'm naturally a very generous person. And I mean, you know this, like how many times has it eaten my dick? Because I'm right. Like I really try hard to approach life with as much generosity as possible. And that hasn't always served me, but I feel like globally, long term, it serves me. I don't want to lose that part of myself. So I, constantly come back to it. But I will say that anytime I've given something to someone for free, it very, 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 very rarely has the same result as people who pay for that same thing. It's just the way it is. And so that is part of it. It is true. It is absolutely
And I
true.
feel it's the same way even with books. And that's something that people listening to this can relate to. When you offer your book for free, it can work. And sometimes it does. Sometimes you get people that will, enjoy your book and leave reviews and they'll go on to buy your other stuff. But a lot of people, they just download shit for free and they never open it up because they don't value it. They just see it as this extra thing in their life and not something that they actually went out and bought and spent money on or valued in any way. And it's weird as an author because we got huge on free books. So it did help us a lot.
Yeah, the market's so different now. And I'm really in this place where I want to make a difference. Like, I'll tell a very quick story and then I know we need to wrap up. A very quick story.
2 hours later.
I went to an event a month ago this week. It was 5 weeks ago, and then the following week is when Write, Publish, Repeat was born. So actually, it has been a month that we've been working on this. And during that event, it was a little bored. I went because a ghostwriting client was there, and it was their event, and I went, but I was bored. And it was 3 days. And I was like, whatever. And I was actually thinking about leaving at lunch. It was the last day. And somebody came up to me and he said, "Are you Sean Platt?" And I didn't have my lanyard on because I basically wanted to disappear. And I was done playing the extrovert and just wanted to go home. And I said,
Are you
"Yes."
Sean Platt or Ray Romano?
I said, yes, I am. And it was just this dude who had listened to all of our shows. We went out to lunch. He bought me a steak, and it was a great lunch. It was the highlight of my week. And that along with several emails that I happened to just coincidentally get that week from people I had not heard from. Actually, one was from someone I hadn't heard in a long time, and then 2 other ones that were just, I've never emailed you before, but I need to email you because. And I was just reminded that we really did make a difference. And I've been reminded a few times this year, like when I first popped my head back up on LinkedIn 6 months ago or whatever, that was a really rewarding time for me. Like I felt like, I made a difference once. And I think that's when I started to get this scratch to maybe come back out again. And, it's taken a while, but I'm really ready now. And I love that we're doing this. I feel a lot of great energy there. I feel energy everywhere right now. The energy at Sterling and Stone is amazing. The energy at Story Merchants is really raw and just let's go and figure this out. And I haven't felt that kind of energy since 2012, 2013, when something was brand new, and that's really fun. But yeah, I think this is an adventure, and I love adventures.
I agree, and I think it's going to be interesting in a way. The landscape is always changing. I'm talking about writing and publishing here. The landscape is always changing, but the core of it always remains the same in writing, creating a story, creating a better story. And I think a lot of what this podcast will do for me is, and I think really like in the whole year and shit that just sucked, I think the fact that this podcast wasn't present and I wasn't weekly meeting with you and Johnny and other people that we talked to, that hurt my productivity and my creativity.
Oh, no shit, dude. I kept trying to throw you lifelines and you're like, it's okay. I'm enjoying the death over here. Like it was.
Well, I don't like to be a burden to anybody, and I don't like to, I don't know. This never felt like a burden, though. This felt like we're all doing this thing together, and I'm not bothering anyone with my shit.
Well, that's why it always felt right. It felt like this is something you can do and have fun and be great at, and through your example, others will learn and you'll get better. And I love win-wins. I know I say this more and more every year, and it gets cheesier every year, and yet I mean it more and more every year. So I'm going to double down on it. But my favorite thing in the world to write is a win-win scenario. And I feel like this can be really win-win. It's a win-win for you. It's a win-win for the audience. It's a win-win for me and our relationship and the things that we're going to make. So I do think that we've gone long. I think this episode was way better than the first episode, so that's good. I would like to close strong with you reminding the audience that you're the host and that you're going to come back in episode 4, assuming we do publish that train wreck with Johnny next. And can you tell us about some of your plans, if you have them, for the show, some of the people you would like to talk to, and some of the stuff you'd like to talk about in general with Write, Publish, Repeat?
Well, I want to get back to what we were doing before. I think a lot of our best episodes are when we interviewed other people. Like we interviewed Hugh Howey, Joanna Penn, and Austin Kleon, a bunch of people.
Wow, you went just all the way back to like the first 10 episodes there.
No, Austin Kleon was later.
Was he?
Yeah.
All right.
I believe so. Anyway, and talking to other people about what they do, and has always helped me, and I want to do that again. I want to talk to people, pick their brains, figure out what they're doing, how they're doing it, and I believe, as a creator and somebody that likes those insights into people's mindset, I think that'll help a lot of people navigate this landscape that's always shifting and changing under our feet. And yeah, I'm not gonna say names because I haven't reached out to anybody yet, but yeah, we're gonna talk to a lot of people. And
why don't you mention some names, and it kind of obligates them to say yes? Why don't you just say like
Stephen King is gonna be on our?
That's great.
I think Clive Barker, Dean fucking Koontz, like.
Oh, I forgot about Dean fucking Koontz. Hey, can we make a Dean fucking Koontz AI voice that calls into the show?
I was listening to your goddamn show and it sucks.
I would love that.
I don't even remember what he sounds like. Anyway, yeah, so, there's going to be this irreverence. I'm going to be hosting a lot of it. I really don't want to be hosting, but I am. I'm the reluctant host.
Okay, this is actually a serious question.
Yeah.
Because we don't have this decided. What we know right now is that there's a few people that I want to reach out to that I would love to be on those calls, and anytime Dave wants me on, I'll show up. Really,
every episode.
it is his show. But that is the question. Do you want me to stick around for like 5 or 6 episodes every episode to get a rhythm, or does that infringe on you developing your own show with your own rhythm?
No, I like it. I think that you're holding the bicycle as I'm learning on the training wheels. and I like the rhythm that we have. The first time I fly solo, I don't know what that rhythm is going to be like. And I know I'm going to be doing an episode with just Johnny. And
I'm so excited for that. Oh, I'm so excited for that. For those of you who don't know or don't remember, the most awkward moments of our entire podcast history have always been moments when it's been Johnny and Dave by themselves.
Your internet went down and we're just sitting.
It's just the best. It's just the best. I am so looking forward to that episode.
And it's weird because Johnny and I are alike in so many surprising ways. And we get along great in person, but on the podcast, when it's just the two of us, it's like, I feel like I'm calling my dad and like, hey, what's up? And it's just like an hour of silence. And like, all right, nice talking to you.
Well, at least Avery will have a really easy job not subtitling anything.
Yeah. Oh, she's subtitling this?
Probably. I think it's like you inviting guests. I think I just obligated. I obligated Avery to subtitle.
So yeah, if you like this, if you like what we used to do, then stick around. There'll be more of that, and then some. There's my great
Hey, Dave, what would a story merchant do right now?
a call to action.
Yes.
All right, I don't know what the call to action is, so why don't you help me out here?
Well, I'm going to show that I suck right now and say I actually don't know what the link is. We don't have a live link. So we actually don't have a CTA. It should be download or no.
Why are you telling me to do something you don't even have planned out?
Because I'm saying that this is the kind of thing we have to get better at. We have to be fluid. We're sending people to 10 days to flow, but actually I don't think that. It's like, what do
Can
you
we
think?
get Ray Chase to edit in a voice of like Morgan Freeman saying what the download link is?
I love that idea. Do you think that, what do you like better? Sending people to 10 days to flow or sending people to the repeaters page with all kinds of free tools where they will find out about 10 days to flow when they get there?
Well, you may as well send them to the main thing, and they can find both of them. They can find 10
Awesome.
days.
So next time in episode 4, we're actually going to have a link for you, and it's going to be amazing. And then that link is going to get better all the time. It's going to be the best link ever. You'll never seen a link like this. All right. Is that it, host?
That's it. I'm calling this. Goodbye.
All right. Awesome. Until next time.
All right.